Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday, June 27th meeting of the Board of Selectmen. This meeting is being broadcast by Norwood Community Media. And we'll begin our meeting with a pledge of allegiance in a moment of silent reflection, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have a relatively light agenda this evening. We have a couple of appointments and a public hearing. We will start, before we have our appointments, we'll start with agenda item number 1, warrant signature update. This is submitting notification of review and approved warrant reports signed by the board's representatives.
Motion to file. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Second item is meeting minutes for the approval of the board. These are meeting minutes from our June 13, 2023 meeting. Pleasure of the board.
No approval submitted. Second.
All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right, that takes us to our first appointment of the evening. Actually, a couple minutes early. How about that? Nice. So, folks, why don't you have a seat at the table? We're pleased to have with us this evening the Norwood Concert Committee, here to speak about the upcoming concerts for the summer. Members, there is a program at each of your desks to follow along if needed. But with that, I'll disclose I am a member of the Concert Committee, and I will chime in as necessary. But Pat, Dave, or Lee, if whoever wants to speak first, go right ahead.
Well, thank you for inviting us in again. This is, I think, my 30th year to come in with the Sunday night concerts. I think the Wednesday night it's 44
43,
years?
yeah.
Something like that, a long time. And Lee, I'm not sure how long the Carolyn series has been going, but
This is our 38th annual series, and annually with no interruptions. So.
that's excellent. So Norwood has a long history of music in the summertime that we bring to the common. This year we're a joint committee like we did last year, which is the Sunday night, Monday night, and Wednesday night, all under one umbrella, working together to share the manpower and promote the concert. All the concerts this year will be at 6:30, change in time, keeping it consistent across all three programs. And I think I didn't actually count it, but there's got to be over 24 nights of music, plus there's some other groups that do music on Tuesday nights and other nights during the summer. So a lot of things are happening. The first concert, I believe, is July 4th, right, Lee?
That's correct. So July 4th, we'll kick off our Carillon series. Actually, it's going to be our usual open tower format. So anytime between 2:30 and the beginning of the road race, feel free to come on down, listen to the Carillon. In that time, we will allow people to come up and actually watch us play. My good friend Margaret Angelini has been helping out with this for the last several years. She plays and teaches at Wellesley College. And then the Carillon will revert back to our usual Monday nights, but like Dave said, at 6:30 and for an hour, 6:30 to 7:30 is the Carillon. That's rain or shine. Everybody's welcome. The rest of the series, like I said, Mondays through July, starting July 10th, all the way through till August 28th. And we have I pride myself on really creating this series with a lot of variation in the type of players and the style of playing, so that we have a broad spectrum of performers. This year, actually, I was doing the data, and it turns out there are more female performers this year than male performers, which I think is a first for our series, actually. There are, out of the 11 total performers, 5 of them are first time performing for our town. So that's exciting as well. And they come from a variety of locations. We have a father and son playing on the 17th, the Sergei and Daniel Grodchev. Daniel is the son of Sergei. Sergei's played here often, but this is the first time for Daniel. He's in his, I'm not sure exactly how old he is, but he's in his mid-teens, so that's going to be exciting as well. And others from the local area and from other states as well. So we really I hope everybody can enjoy the Carillon this year.
Thank you.
And then right after the 4th, the Wednesday night series kicks off on July 5th with Roundhouse. Selectman Donnelly, I know you've booked the Wednesday night. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure, just a little bit. So Roundhouse is returning 3 years in a row now. We've had Roundhouse, and they're the only band that we continuously bring back because they pull in a wonderful crowd. The band features 3 Norwood high school graduates from the way back in the 70s, and including Teddy Mulvihill, the veterans agent here. So they're returning on the 5th, and most of the other bands coming up here, Rick Barron, Dave Tessia's Band of All-Stars. We have the Squeeze Box Stompers on July the 26th. Pan Nubian Steel Band on August 2nd. Southern Rail is a band that we had several years ago. They haven't been at Norwood for a while. They're here on the 9th of August, and we're going to end this season on August 16th with a new band for us, the Hip Shot Band. So that's quite the lineup. We do expect that the summer is going to be perfect and no rain. However, we will hold August 23rd, Wednesday, as a rain date, possibly, if we have a rain date. That's our Wednesday night concert, like you said, Dave. It's the 43 years in the making. I think this is season number 43, actually. So, and I want to also thank the 3 members sitting before us, as well as the other committee members, which I'll name at the end. But we'll let Dave tell us a little bit about the Sunday night concerts.
Yeah, so Sunday will follow that same weekend, July 9th. We kick off with the Compact Big Band. We have a lot of our usual returning favorites, including the Sharon Community Band on the 30th, the Oberlander Hofbrau Band, which is a prelude early Oktoberfest night. Everybody likes that on August 27th. And we run all the way every Sunday, July and August, except July 2nd, I guess we don't have one there. But July 9th through August 27th, we close out with Dan Gabel and the Abletones.
Great. And the program, I think we're distributing through the Norwood Record, which so we thank the Norwood Record for their assistance. And but we do have a very nice program. We'll make it available at various places, including the Norwood Record. I would just like to recognize the committee members as well. In addition to the 3 that sit before us, we are also we're a small committee, a committee that works well together. Dave is right. It's 3 different concert series that have merged together in the last several years. But our committee consists of Ali Abdallah, Paul Easy, Tony Mizuko, Mike Rosen, Dave Tuttle, myself, Lee Leach, Dorothy Prevois, and Pat Schick. So small group of people who get a lot done in terms of booking these bands, putting together the program, and working with the general manager's office to effect all the necessary paperwork to make it happen. The brochure also is going to give a very nice shout out in the back to the number of donors, organizations, and businesses and individuals who have supported the concert program. We had a very, very good fundraising year, which I was very pleased with personally, because I wasn't sure what to expect after the 150th celebrations of last year. I thought maybe there'd be some dip down in our fundraising, but it was a great year. And in addition to the businesses listed there, we are grateful for the number of merchants and restaurateurs who have donated gift certificates to their various establishments, because we do run, and we will doing this on Wednesday evenings as well as Sunday evenings, a free raffle. It's a really good buy. All you got to do is get a free ticket and hope that your number is picked, and you'll have a great certificate from one of our supporting businesses, so great job.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Anything else from the committee, or
I think that's it.
questions from the board, commentary?
Just a big thank you as every year. As you said, it's been a long time, it's successful. People keep coming, they love it. Adds such culture and character to the community, and thanks for the efforts you put in, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a really good time of the year to, with the concerts starting up, just the 4th of July festivities, Juneteenth that we had recently. Summer really has kicked in big time here in Norwood. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
So the next item is, it's not quite 6:45, but I think the concert committee is here. We can invite them in, I believe. 4th of July, what did I say?
Still thinking about the concerts.
Still, oh my goodness, yes. You're gonna sit at the table. Have a seat there.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Hello, Mike.
Hi there. How are we doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Wonderful.
Welcome to the Board of Selectmen's meeting this evening. We're grateful for your appearance, and without further ado, why don't we start? This is the 4th of July committee?
Yes, it
Yes,
Why
is.
don't you introduce yourselves and tell us about your plans for the 4th of July, please?
My name's Maria Henry.
Lou Harris.
Michael Rosen.
Mary Quintero.
Welcome. All
So
right.
this year, the 4th of July parade, the theme is, we just simply, July 4th, a Norwood tradition. We look back and found that since 1872, we've celebrated the 4th of July in Norwood, and it's become a huge tradition throughout the years. And I don't know if you can see the T-shirt, but the gazebo will be on front.
Oh, wow.
It says a Norwood tradition. They're gonna be beautiful. And on the back, we have just the major sponsors. But they'll be, you'll see them on July 4th. We have, all the big bands are coming back, and we've added the Titans from Canada. They're coming back. They hadn't been here for a few years. So we were really, we have a lot of music, a lot of bands, a lot of our old Colonial Boys, the Pipers. We have a lot of civic groups. We have softball, football, baseball, dancing. So there's cheerleaders. So we have a lot, and we were really happy about that, because I want more, the community groups, and so it should be a really great parade. We have, the lineup goes 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Mary and I do the Children's Bicycle and Dog Carriage Parade. We've been doing that for about 30 years now. So we're really excited about that. That starts at 1 o'clock. Children meet at the First Congregational Church in corner of Walpole and Winter. They line up, they pay $1, they get a T-shirt, they march in the parade, they all get an award sticker, and then they come to the gazebo, they're judged by categories, and we have historical characters. It's really a great time, it's awesome. Colonial Boys lead the parade, and then we pick first, second, and third place in all age groups and categories, and they're welcome to ride on the big parade and our big float. So that's a real great time, and we've been getting a lot of phone calls. Mary and I have been getting phone calls for people wanting to pre-register, so I'm hoping it should be good. And then at 2 o'clock, there's the Norwood Reads Frederick Douglass Together. 2:30, the Independence Day Carillon concert starts. 5 o'clock is the Firecracker 5K road race. Jim Henry runs that. He's done it for a number of years. He couldn't be here tonight, but he's got pre-registered voters. It's never too late to register. Runners. Runners. But it's never too late. He wanted everyone to know that up until the last minute, even that day. Just come up and register in a half hour before the parade. And that is at 5 o'clock, and after that is the parade. And that's where I'm gonna turn. Lou is the one that's up at the, he lines it up, and he takes all the, grief and aggravation. When people want to be the first ones out, they want to get.
Yeah, it should be fun. We're gonna have a real good parade this year. We do the staging down at the Coakley Middle School, and somewhere around 5:15, 5:30, the fire trucks will release. And once they're done making all their noise, They'll be followed up as usual by the antique cars and the classic cars, and some of the military groups. We have 2 different groups this year going through that, and that's followed by the police group, the color guard, then the town officials. Go through, we'll have our grand marshal. She'll be in a nice car provided by DCD. Judy Langone is our
Grand Marshal.
Grand Marshal this year, and she should have a good time there. And then we're gonna be followed by the usual cast of characters with bands and other groups all intertwined, including but not limited to the Northeast Italian Band, Colonial Boys, the 7th Regiment. We'll have floats with the League of Women Voters and the Rotary, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Challengers. We've got a couple of groups, Trend in Motion, the Colonial Pipers, and we'll have the Titans in there, the Monotony Minutemen, a few more groups, and followed up at the very end, we'll have the Saints Brigade, which is one of the largest bands that we have right at the end. It should be a really good time. We're bringing back a couple of groups that haven't been there for a few years, and we'll miss a few that didn't make it, but that's okay. We got what we got.
Cycling Murrays are here too. They're
Yeah,
back.
they'll be back this year, we hope.
So anyway, so it should be a great parade, and I just want to thank, this parade is getting, because of the cost of living, it's more and more expensive to run, and I, thank the town a million times for for increasing our donation, because these bands just require it or they can't come, everything's gone up, so the town was so generous, and I want to thank everyone for that, and the businesses have been so generous, it's amazing. DCD is our major sponsor, they gave us $5,000, and we couldn't believe that. And then we have like the one local bank is Cadillac of Norwood. I could go on and on. I'm just trying to name the 3 DEO, and then Poria Sales and Service gave $3,000. So people were very generous, and a lot of citizens are giving, 10, 20, 50. It all adds up. So we appreciate it from everyone, and we really need it, because when you look at the bottom line, it's frightening. But we want to thank everyone for, backing us and to helping us and giving us the, the money so that we can proceed with this.
Great.
That's
Thank
it.
you
If you
very
have any
much.
questions?
Questions from the board? Mr. Sad?
I want to thank you for taking over the parade years ago from us in the J.C.'s, because I used to run that with $2,000 a year.
Really?
Yep. And then we started that road race at 5 o'clock right before the parade. But I want to thank you for all your time and energy. I know it's a lot of work, and he's going to get the bullets, but it's a good time. It's a great parade, and the only suggestion, if it's really hot, when we ran it, Tony, I mentioned, open up the fire truck. Let it run through the center of town and cool the driveways when we're
Yeah.
walking. That
Right.
might
Well,
work.
you know
a
what
little-
they're saying? It's supposed to be 88, hot and humid.
Yeah, I'm
sunny.
just throwing it at you.
Yeah, so it's gonna be okay.
But
gonna
thank
be
you
quite
for all
a
your
show.
help and support. It's a
Oh,
great
you're
parade, and
welcome.
it's dear to my heart.
Oh, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then,
Yes, Ms. Grove.
I also look forward to this one every year. This was one of the first things that really struck my husband and I when we first moved to Norwood, which was back in 2007, and we were like, wow, even back, back home, we never had parades like this, so it's so it's an intense event, and there's so much patriotism and community, and it's just such a great event, so we really appreciate that it's still going strong.
Yeah, thank you. It's exciting. It's every year it's like the first year again. That day, when you see it all happen.
It's definitely a labor of love.
Yeah.
Great.
I'd just like to say thank you, as we always do, to your different groups, putting on the group that was just here before you. It really changes Norwood from a place where we live to a community that we enjoy living in. And it takes volunteers and efforts like this every year to keep coming back and doing it. The people enjoy it because they keep coming out. And all we can do is say thank you for your efforts.
You're welcome.
I thank you as well, and it may be hot and humid, but that's better than rainy and muggy. So
Absolutely.
projection is for a good day for a parade,
You don't have to shovel it.
and then you don't have to shovel it, exactly. Good luck, and thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a few minutes before our first 7 o'clock appointment. I suggest that we go on to new business for a few minutes. First item under new business is 4.1. That is a one-day liquor permit for Cove Boutique, sorry. Any comments, suggestions, Ms. Grove? No? Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So we'll never familiar, but
Yeah.
I would be in favor of making a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been, motion to approve, been seconded. All in favor of approval of the one-day liquor permit?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. The next order is 4.2. This is a one-day liquor permit for the Norwood Portuguese Club. Pleasure of the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. And on to 4.3. This is a park use request for Trinity Community for use of the Disabled Veterans Park on Chapel Street. Submitting a request from Trinity Community to use the Disabled Americans Veterans Park for Church Camp July 17 through 21, from 8:30 until 4:30, with 60 to 80 people in attendance. They do indicate in their application that they do have a list of abutters, and they apparently will take responsibilities for notifying neighbors of their camp. Pleasure of the board? Or questions from the committee? Board, rather?
If they're notifying abutters, then I will also make a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved for approval and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. On to 4.4, community preservation reappointments. I believe one of these is our appointment, is it not? Or
I know, this
I
is,
think
this
one.
is from Cheryl, and she's from the Historic Commission, so it doesn't have anything to do with us. We do appoint members, at-large members, but they're not covered by this letter, it's just her letter, right?
Yeah, I was under the impression that the appointment, first appointment of Julie Barber-Iser is our appointment, but the Historical Commission is responsible for the appointment of Ms. Doyle.
Is she up? Oh, yeah, 7/1 of
Yes.
23, yeah.
Yes.
Make a motion to reappoint Julie Barbara Heisler.
Motion made, seconded by Ms. Grow. All in favor of reappointment?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous. And the no action is necessary for the second reappointment, as I see for Ms. Doyle, as that's a Historical Commission appointment. Am I correct? Anybody disagree with that?
No, agree.
All right. Very good. We still have a few minutes. We have now 4.5. It's Council on Aging resignation. And this is a letter, formal letter from Mr. Mulvihill, who has served on the Council on Aging for some time, and he has indicated that time has come for him to move on to other of the many other activities and commitments Mr. Mulvihill has with the town of Norwood. So,
Motion to accept the regrets.
do I have a second?
Second.
A motion to accept Mr. Mulvihill's resignation. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
noticed
Mr.
he
Plasko.
mentions a possible replacement, but I don't know, we haven't heard from Carol, the individual herself, have we?
I have not heard.
Yeah, I know she's on the Friends and very
Mhm.
interested, but I think we need a formal confirmation that she's interested.
Maybe we can ask Mr. Mizuka, would you mind reaching out to the individual indicated in Mr. Mulvihill's letter and
Not
see
at
if
all.
there's an interest on her part to fill the vacancy on the Council of Aging?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. With that, we can now move on to item number 4.6. Bench installation, submitting for approval of the board information and suggestion regarding the Shattuck Park benches. Open this up for discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have problems with the suggestion. These benches are beautiful benches. They've already been purchased. In fact, we're in the park at one point already. I have some differences respectfully with Mr. Greeley's thoughts about the benches and where they were placed and actually the appropriateness of them in this park. This is not a park like the Common. This is not a park like the Veterans Park on Dial Street. This is not nice rolling green grass. It's all overgrown. It's paths that go through it. I'm there 4 times a day in the summer, 3 times in the winter. The people that you see using that park are using it to walk their dogs, for exercise, some jog, some pass through as a shortcut from Nickel Street to Lincoln Street and up in that direction, up a Winter Street. But people don't hang there, they don't hang around there. So I've asked some of the people that I run across every day what they thought about the benches. And one said that he saw a few women using it once. A non-user happened to be talking to me one day saying that his wife used the bench once, or I shouldn't say once, but used the bench when she was passing through on her way to the senior center for exercise classes and found it restful. 3 people never even saw them. Because if you, actually have a map for you. If you look at the ones that are colored in, that's where they had been placed in the direction in which they were looking. And if you see the several different paths that go through this park, the way people make their own path for their own purposes, many people never even go down that lake. So several people, as I indicated, never even knew the benches had ever been there. And 4 other people said they knew the benches were there, but weren't sure why they were there and never used them or saw anyone using them. So I don't know that this is an appropriate park. Benches are kind of not anything wrong with a bench. What's wrong with the bench? But I don't know that they're really a good use of the resources at this particular location. And if the board thinks no harm, put them in there, they definitely need to go in a different location. I indicated 3 locations, one I marked as 1, one I marked as 2, and one I marked as 2 acres, as 2 benches, if both benches are gonna go in the park. The suggestions of those, if you look close, they intersect with many of the pathways, so people wouldn't be in an isolated spot covered by all the overgrowth. They also are reasonably close to the streets, so neighbors and other people going by. You will actually, if you go to this park and pay attention, you will see as many, if not more people, walking the sidewalks around the park, for some reason choose not to go into the park. So again, I'm not sure that it's the best use of the resources, but in any event, if the board disagrees and wants to put them in, I strongly suggest a different location than had been originally used.
Mr. Sad?
I talked to a few neighbors up there, and they're kind of not with the benches going in, so I kind of agree with Bill that that's more of just people walking their dogs through and a cut-through versus somewhere to hang around. So I don't know, maybe put them down the Haas Pool, put them in the Bernie Cooper Park. Tony, do you know where this money's coming from?
It came out of the Trails Committee's budget last year.
They are beautiful benches, some of the nicest.
They're very nice benches.
I haven't seen them, but I just,
They're nice, they're strong, they're all metal ones, they're durable as can be.
I have a
Ms.
question.
Grow? Yes.
So I don't disagree with the alternative sites in terms of where they're laid out and sort of the way people flow through a space like this. The suggested alternative locations would look pretty good because it seems like a place where if you start off on a trail, you're doing a walk and you need to take a break, especially as summers are getting really hot now, those alternate places seem like spots that's where you would need your break to catch your breath, as opposed to where the current proposed is sort of, like you say, it's kind of out off the way and not as many people are passing through there. So I'd be in favor of having them at one of the alternate spots. Because like I said, it's gonna get really hot. Like, people aren't gonna be able to take the length of walks that they're used to taking, because the temperatures are just gonna be different than we've experienced in many generations.
Yes. Yeah, I actually do like the benches in the park. I do walk there occasionally, and I've met some folks who do appreciate it. I'm sure there's a variation in opinions. I do agree with Mr. Plasko that these alternate locations that he's indicated as map are very well positioned, as they provide respite through various points of the park. So that's my 2 cents. At this point, I think we've had a good discussion on the donations, so I would ask, what is the pleasure of the board?
I think I'd like to make a motion to accept the benches into the park, but at the alternate location of number 2 and 2A.
2 and 2A,
These
both on
two,
the same side of the park.
They're quite spread out from each other at those 2 locations.
this would be basically one along Shattuck Park Road and near Nickel Street, and the second one near Shattuck Park Road, but closer to Bellevue,
Correct.
okay? Oh, a motion has been made to accept the bench donations with the locations indicated on the map, position 2A and 2. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman, point of information, who drafted this bill, you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're comfortable with these being there?
No, I'm just saying, if the board, I'm not comfortable with them. If the board is comfortable, I suggest that those are more appropriate locations to choose from than where they were originally placed, which are the dock.
Right. I'd like to make a motion, we put them in 2A and 2B.
Okay, she's made that motion?
Oh, second.
And you want to second it, Mr.
Sure.
Sad?
Yeah.
So the motion by Ms. Gross, seconded by Ms. Sad on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
And all opposed?
Opposed.
And chair votes yes, so that's 3-1 with approval. Thank you. It is just, thank you. We're running a little late. We appreciate your
I had an
patience
interest
with
in
us.
that discussion, Mr. Chairman.
There you go. At this point, we have a 7 p.m. Public hearing, and I will ask Ms. Joseph to please read the notice.
Application is made to the licensing board of the town of Norwood for transfer of the retail wine and malt beverages packaged goods store license and change of location from Baraki Inc., DBA Convenient Food Mart, to Fuel Source Inc., DBA Norwood Sitco Manager of Record George Saba under Section 15, Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws, as amended for the sale of wine and malt beverages not to be drunk on the premises of 960 Boston Province Turnpike, Norwood, Massachusetts. Description of premises is as follows. 1-story building having an open sales floor, clerk's counter, handicap bathroom, and 2 additional bathrooms, 2 built-in coolers, a storage closet, an office, 1 additional room, and shelving for the display of goods for sale. Public hearing on this application will be held Tuesday, June 27, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Harry B. Butters Chambers, room 34, Norwood Town Hall.
Thank you. Welcome. Would
Evening.
you gentlemen mind identifying yourself?
Mr. Chairman, my name is David Hearn Jr. I'm an attorney with Gellerman Cabral at 30 Walpole Street. I'm here representing the applicant, Fuel Source, Inc. With me this evening is Mr. George Saba, who is the proposed manager and has been the operator of the gas station located at 960 Boston Providence Turnpike for nearly 45 years, I guess. And his wife, Angela, is the principal of Fuel Source, Inc., which is the entity that operates the convenience store and gas station. There's another entity that they have that actually owns the real estate. He's owned the real estate through that entity for 30-plus years, 30 to 35 years. So he's got a long connection with the site, operating and owning the property. It is what is proposed here is a transfer of the license that is presently held by a Convenient Food Mart at 1237 Washington Street to Mr. Saba's operation. You may recall that a few months ago you approved the transfer of an all alcoholic beverages license from an entity that had been licensed for a site on Route 1, and that transfer was authorized and approved by you to go to the Convenient Food Mart operation. So they are trying to dispose of the beer and wine license that they had acquired previously. And this is sort of a two-step we've got here, because you can't have two licenses at once. So the transfer of the AAB license is in abeyance. It's been reviewed by the ABCC. I understand that they sent it back with no action because they know we're trying to process this application and this transfer. And so they're waiting to hear if this is approved then, and that this goes into them. If they approve this, if you do and then they do, then there'll be the trade of the beer and wine going to Mr. Saba's operation, and the AAB can then be finally approved by the ABCC. Not aware of any problems on that. This is, we think, a fairly straightforward application. It's become more common for convenience stores and gas stations that operate convenience stores to acquire licenses. He's in competition selling gas and other products with the people across the street at the mobile station, competing with BJ's Gas up the street, which is offering generally lower cost gasoline and attracting business. So he hopes to be able to sell more of other types of products with your permission and that of the ABCC to help supplement the income that otherwise is affected by the competition. Of course, he might produce some competition for others in the neighborhood, but never understood competition to really be a bad thing. He's got a great deal of experience in operating the convenience store, operating the gas station. They've done so for years without any problems. Anybody who will be dealing with the public, if this is approved, will take the TIPS course, Mr. Saba and the clerks that would be dealing with the public. So we would promise that there would be training for them to be appropriate. We're happy to take any questions. We've given you the floor plan. We've given you the corporate papers, the lease that under which the business is operated. We did file the DOR clearance that relates to the seller. None is required with respect to the purchaser. We're still waiting for the DUA, Division of Unemployment Assistance, and I've been following up on that, and I learned this afternoon that it was supposed to have been emailed. They've been requesting it, and whoever is sending it out says, no, we mailed it. So it's somewhere in process. And I know that the ABCC requires those before they can finally pass on things. You folks want it, of course, as part of the application, which is mandated by the ABCC. But we expect it's coming, and the accountant who is processing that for the Convenient Food Mart people is somewhat mystified that they wouldn't send it out by email the way most certificates come out these days. But I was following up on it, and I finally heard this afternoon it's in the mail, which we used to hear more often, but not so much now. We're happy to take any questions from any members of the board and any members of the public that want to speak up.
Thank you, Mr. Hearn. Questions from the board? Comments?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pasco.
this license location, or this location was before us for a license several months ago.
This location? Not that I was involved in. Did you have an application for a license in the past?
No, never had one for alcohol.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it was,
so,
different one.
I'm a little concerned about the transfer of this license. Remember when we're transferring the license to the Convenient Mart, I had questions about whether you could have the 2 licenses, and we weren't quite sure about that, and figured, okay, we don't have to do anything because we'll send it to the ABCC and they'll straighten us out.
Yes.
Apparently they have by sending this back, and I'm upset that I've never heard that. It's come back to this office, and we don't know that an agency sent it back to us with any issues.
Well, I can answer that, give you some more information on that. I had a call from the investigator at the ABCC, and she said, well, are you able to send an affidavit that you've disposed of the license or turned the license in? And I said, no, we actually have an application that's coming before the selectmen in a few weeks that is an application for transfer. So she discussed it with her superior and then called me back later and said, well, all right, the way we handle this then is we're going to send it back with no action taken. And I asked if there were any problems, and she said, no, there aren't any problems other than you can't have 2 at once.
Right.
And so when you if the transfer goes through, notify us, we'll take the application back and finish processing it.
So
And the indication was there were no problems with that transfer. Now, jumping back a matter to when the Convenient Food Mart applied, their transferor is that LLAWM1, I think, something like that. They have initials for their business name. I know they're anxious to see this go through because
Sure,
you've got them.
obviously.
You know, you've got them on your list, I guess, of watching them and giving them time to get it done. And I told them where we were on this. The fellow called me a week or 2 ago, and I told him where we were in getting this done. And the transfer had been approved locally. ABCC is juggling it really because they know
They're
we
being
can't
kind
do
to
it.
you.
Yep.
They're looking the other way to let it go through, because I just did find section in 138 just the other day that says you can apply and get a new license of any kind, provided you surrender your current license, and it uses the word surrender. But that's fine, that's really a separate subject, I think, from whether or not this application should be considered and granted. I tend to be opposed to this location. The provisions of Chapter 138 are really enacted with the view of serving the public need, and as determined by the local licensing authority for having an adequate number of places where the public can obtain these type of products that they might be in search of. This location is right across from another beer and wine, 2 buildings down from one of the largest full-service liquor stores in the area. And I see that as just clustering too many licenses and not in the best interest of the town to be doing that, having that kind of an arrangement all clustered together. We also do have, as the licensing authority, the ability to deny, which we did the last license I was just trying to refer to, if we thought that the geographical area and place was inappropriate. And again, repeating myself, I think saying it in a slightly different way, I just don't find this site appropriate considering the other licenses in the area. Thank you.
Comments from the board otherwise? Mr. Hunter?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
David.
Well, thank you. If I may respond to that, I understand Mr. Plasko. There's Mr. Plasko's comments. There's a gas station across the street that was licensed a number of years ago. That fellow has several licenses. This is one license my client is hoping to obtain. And you allowed a large store to open up not that long ago near that, so you're clustering at that point.
Definition of a cluster.
Yeah, but there are 2 right there opposite each other, essentially. We're proposing a third, but they're different types of operations. Yankee Spirits is a big mega store from the point of view of comparing it to the mom and pop type operations that the gas stations have.
considering the product being offered and available to the public, and it is.
Well, this is a,
You know, if
I
you
will
went down
say,
the street, another intersection or something, might be an entirely different story, in my view, but
this is a gentleman that came forward to purchase the license, and he believes that it's not inappropriate. He's had people asking him for years about coming in and buying alcohol at his location. He doesn't have a license. He's been good enough at times to tell him, well, Yankee Spirits is right over there if you want to go there. But he would like to, he feels that there's a need and it will serve the public. People using the gas station or the convenience store being able to also purchase alcohol products at his location. If they want to, fine. If they don't want to, they can go somewhere else. Besides that, I mean, he's willing to make the investment and to, you know, if he didn't think it would work, he wouldn't try it. Now, you know, you can look at it, I understand your concern, or maybe, see, that looks like a lot, three stores selling alcohol right near each other. It happens in places, but, and it may not be ideal from the point of view of some people, but it's, I don't know there's anything wrong with it. I haven't heard that there's a demand for other sites in the town. Otherwise, there would have been more competition, more people ringing up looking for those things.
I understand that he wants the license, and I understand that I have the responsibility as the licensing authority to decide whether it's appropriate or not. Wanting something and whether it's appropriate are really two different things. Just for the record, is this the only license?
Yes.
Would this be his only license? Thank you.
Mr. Sad.
Just a point of information, I'm kind of new to this a little bit, but wasn't that license going to be turned back to the town?
Well, that's
No.
what, that was the earlier discussion. Right now, they're not turning it back.
Okay.
No, I'm not turning it back. He's
Which-
transferring.
Which license is Mr. Sad referring to?
The convenient mart.
1237.
Convenient mart
There's no
license.
requirement that it be turned back to the town, no. The idea is that they got the license, they've got to do something with the beer and wine license that they have. And there's something they're trying to do is make the transfer to Mr. Sabat. There's no requirement that it be
I thought
turned
the
back.
board put a requirement saying they would turn it back in, no?
No,
No.
no, no.
Okay.
It's legally permissible to do exactly the transfer the ways that is
I
described.
kind of agree with Bill, having three of them in one spot, being from South Knoll, we had all those bars down there. I think you're gonna have other merchants maybe coming in saying, we want a liquor license that might buy from somebody else, and it'll be instead of auto mile, it might be the liquor mile. So I don't know, it just seems that that license should have came back to the board and then we turn it out. It's not Bitcoin, it's a license.
Mr. Chairman, historically, these licenses, while they're issued by the local authorities, once they come into the possession of store operators, have been freely transferred, subject to the approval of the local licensing authority and the ABCC. And there are some licenses that do have conditions on them that say they have to come back to the town, or they're limited geographically. This is not one of those licenses. This is not limited to any particular area, nor is it subject to any other conditions. That applies more to some of the restaurant licenses. So, and there never was an agreement or an obligation that it had to come back to the town. That's an option, but it's an asset that the convenient food mart folks would like to use effectively toward the purchase of the other license that they're up for. So, you know, if it's a question, there are a couple of questions here. Is it serving the public good? We think it is. We think that there's a demand. My client tells me that over the years, he said people asking him on a regular basis. They come in, and they're people who are in the area, some at the nearby hotel, who want to find, you know, I'm here getting gas or going to the convenience store, can I buy some beer, buy some wine? Can't help you. He's got a demand there. So does it serve the public good, and is the applicant a fit applicant? On that, I'm not aware of any criticism that could be raised, whether the applicant, the business and the proposed manager, whether there's any challenge. I haven't heard any to the question of fitness. On the question of public need, I think that Mr. Plasko has stated his opinion on it, and and maybe Mr. Saad agrees that it's a concern about too much in one location, but I think the market determines that to a great extent. The same way that you've got multiple stores selling tobacco products right by each other, whether in different shopping areas or in different roads. This is just another licensed type of product that requires approval, requires a license, and is monitored as by the local authorities, or else you get in trouble with the authorities. So we leave it to the board, and I recognize we're also operating with not a full board tonight, so we don't have the benefit of the fifth member, but we're happy to take questions from the rest of you.
Are there any other questions from the board? This is a public hearing, so at this point, if there is a member of the public who would wish to speak to the issue, they may do so now. Just provide your name and address. Yes, sir.
Brian Armida, 1350 Main Street, Walpole, here on behalf of Dean Realty LLC, which is an abutter to this property. For the reasons that Mr. Plasko and Mr. Saad already rightly said, my client opposes this application specifically because one of its tenants is Yankee Spirits. We believe that for those very reasons that Mr. Saad and Mr. Plasko have said, it would be too much in the same location. And particularly in this case, my client feels that it would be particularly unfit because in my client's view, the property that would be subject to this license is already somewhat overdeveloped. It really lacks setbacks or landscaping that would compensate for what Mr. Hearn has rightly said is the anticipated addition of new customers as a result of the license. And at least in my client's view, that the current use of the property isn't really in conformance with the approvals that have been obtained for the site. So for those reasons and for those that Mr. Saad and Mr. Plasko have articulated, my client opposes the application.
Thank you. Is there any other member of the public who wants to speak to this application? Yes, Mr. Hearn.
If I may, with all due respect to my brother, Mr. Almeida, he's talking about competition. He's talking about competition that could affect his client or his client's tenant. The gas station is laid out as it is, and has been for years. It may attract new customers. It may also provide services for the existing customers who come in there to use the convenience store or use the gas pumps or both. But the objection of competition is not usually treated as a valid objection by a neighbor opposing somebody's proposed use of their property, whether it's zoning or licensing or anything like that. And he may speak to issues, but it's really about competition. And David and Goliath. Goliath being Yankee, big operation. David being my client, being one of the small stores that is trying to, has been successful over the years, but with the competition of places like BJ's and Rojo, which sells discount gas and also now sells beer and wine, this is something that he's trying to do to help his business. So I do ask that you keep that in mind, and that notwithstanding the concerns that Mr. Plasko has, which I think relate to public need, the public need, in my client's view, is there with the people that have been asking him over the years, can they buy beer or wine there? And again, we have heard no concerns stated by anybody regarding fitness. So I think it comes down to public need as the objection. And I would say that to let the market determine where there are no character concerns and no fitness concerns, let the market determine whether this competition is appropriate or not. My client wouldn't be doing this if he thought it was going to fail, if he thought there wasn't a need, a demand in that area. So it would help his business, and if it helps his business and it provides competition that's not against the public interest, and if it also serves a need. Some people prefer to shop at the small local stores where they buy their snacks or buy their gas. Some prefer to go into the big stores where there's more choice. That's fine. We don't have any problem with that. And we know that if this license is awarded to my client's operation, that there's going to be competition next door, a big competition. It's okay. He's willing to take that on. And I don't know, this is a license that is available, that is, again, we think there's a need. We think the public need will be satisfied. So I ask you to consider it favorably. If the chairman and others think that it makes sense to continue it to a date where we have a fifth member, then depending upon how things are going, leave it to you on that. But ultimately, it's your decision. We respect that. But we would ask that you approve the application and let it go on to the ABCC.
Is there anyone else from the public that wishes to speak to the matter?
So if I can talk on Yankee Spirits behalf?
Yes, would you identify yourself, sir?
So my name is Morris Carrats, I'm the store manager of Yankee Spirits in Norwood. I think we would oppose it, it's just, we keep talking about competition, but in all fairness, the ABCC doesn't allow us to go below what the invoice cost of any product is. So no matter how much competition is in the area, it's not gonna drive prices down in any way. I don't think there's a need for it for the public, given the fact that there is a location across the street that also serves beer and wine, plus the larger 20,000 square foot store that is a superstore discounted wholesaler of all products. It is a little dangerous in that location. There's a lot of customers who like to cut through that light right before you get to the first light on Dean Street before the end. Primarily, I would expect them to sell a lot of beer and wine and possibly a lot of single serve, so I think it's just that factor. People that want to just cut through the parking lot while somebody's trying to run in and grab a 24-ounce can or 6-pack of Budweiser, whatever the case may be. So I think as Yankee Spirits is concerned, competition is always invited. It is what it is, but I don't think it's needed for the public.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak to the application?
Motion to close the hearing.
A motion to close the hearing has been made.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye, it's unanimous. The pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, is the board not going to take action? We'll accept that.
Just one moment, Mr. Hearn. I think we're contemplating our motion.
Make a motion to deny application.
A motion's been made to deny. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Mr. Sad. All in favor of the motion to deny?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. It's a 2-2 vote.
We have no vote.
We have no vote.
So there's no positive action. But also, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, you're both in this business. I believe we need to take action, or we're supposed to take action, otherwise we lose control of the licensing authority within 30 days of the application. And I don't think we have any other meetings coming up. We're talking about 1 week, July.
18, so you'd be within the 30 days.
Yeah.
If you were to continue with the 18th.
I think you'd have to vote to reopen while everybody's here before you adjourn, and then vote to continue to the 18th, and then when you have a full board,
Right.
and likely to break a tie.
So with that, I'm assuming we need a motion to continue the hearing until July 18th.
No, we already closed the hearing.
All
You
right.
got to
You
vote
have
to.
to-
We don't have to
Motion to-
take action.
Yeah.
We can wait and take it up at another meeting.
Okay.
We tend to act right away, but we don't need to. So it can come up, be put on a future agenda and be taken up, but input is now closed.
Okay.
So is the motion to table it until the 18th?
Motion to table and review at the next scheduled selectmen's meeting. Not the next, I don't mean the light department meeting, but the next selectmen meeting in July.
18th. Okay. Motion to, for the July 18th meeting has been made. We have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Sapp. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right. Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, to be clear, the hearing is closed, so there'll be no further testimony. It'll be up to the board what it wants, to decide what it wants to do with the
Based on
map.
what we've already got. And Mr. Lane will avail himself of the tapes and the minutes, I assume.
Right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Nelson? Yep, we're up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well, so we are a little bit behind in our schedule, but at this time, we can move on to item 3.4, which is a 7:15 appointment with our new energy manager. Welcome. Welcome, sir. So, new energy manager, Mr. Tobin, welcome to Norwood. We're glad that you are with us. It's been a long search for us for this position. We thought we might take this opportunity just to welcome you to Norwood, and if you so wish to deliver any information about your background and what you see as the key objective for Norwood, the floor is yours.
Sure. Well, just before this, I was doing the same thing. I was doing energy management for the city of Lowell. I also did it for Plymouth Public Schools quite a while ago. I've worked at ice arenas. I've driven duck boats. I've drive Zambonis. I've coached hockey, played hockey. I've been in the environmental health and safety industry for many years prior to getting before the energy management role for metal finishing and microelectronics industry. Right now for Norwood and Sharon, I'm just going over the latest Green Communities grant that was issued in January of 2022. And there was 13 allocations, if you will, most of which were LED lighting, BOC training, another one for administrative work, weatherization, and conversion from oil to gas at one of the schools. So I'm working on those to close them out and provide an update to the Mass DOER. Also, I have gone through what's out there for EV charging grants and updated DEP on that. Just the post office lot, the airport lot, and the Talbot lot.
And this position is providing services both to Sharon and Norwood, as well as Walpole, or is it's just Sharon and Norwood?
Yeah.
Okay. So you'll be spending time in both communities?
Yes.
Good. Great. Any questions from the board?
All over my head.
Ms.
I'm
Green?
counting on you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you in the role. I just wanted to extend a warm welcome. We're very excited about energy management here, and then I just wanted to hear a little bit about, what are you most excited about tackling so far?
One of the areas that I like efficiency. I like old buildings, like say this one here, looking at how did this operate back when it was built, and try to return that, because it's how buildings are most efficient, is if you go back to how they were originally designed. Efficiency will get you to resiliency at some point. And looking at building operating controls, insulation, weatherization, behavioral based as well. Don't turn the lights off when you don't need them. Turn the computer off when you don't need them. I did this back before there was Green Communities for the Plymouth School Department, so it was a low cost, no cost initiative, mostly behavioral based. And that ended up, at the time, the school district got awarded by the state. We're we were saving, or cost avoidance, if you will, not maybe necessarily savings. Almost $1 million a year at that point. Another area that I focus on is the utility bills. There's a lot of cost avoidance there. Just for instance, Lowell had roughly 500 accounts, oil and gas, not oil, electric and gas accounts. I was able to get rid of 45 of them that didn't exist anymore, that the city was paying on for a long time, that just weren't there, or they belonged to the state or some other entity. Also, by just auditing them on a monthly basis, there's a lot of cost avoidance, there's a lot of billing errors. The sales tax, you don't pay sales tax. Estimated bills, usually, of course, estimate them too high. Erroneous charges, erroneous late charges when they're not processing your check in time. So by default, that generates late charges. So just this past fiscal year when I left Lowell, that was a cost avoidance of $230,000. That if you're not watching the bills, that people just tend to pay without looking.
Very awesome. Yeah, I'm hoping we can get an awareness event happening around Halloween for turning off your energy vampires. A lot of people don't think about all the devices that they just sort of leave them on, but they're turned off, but they're actually still drawing down.
Right, and one of the things that I did in the school department, because schools are your biggest energy users, but there's a lot of opportunity there because you have nights, weekends, and vacations for shutdown. So a lot of those vacation periods, like week-long vacations, somebody unplug things, because that is what you're saying, that there's a lot of coffee pots out there, little cube fridges, table lamps, those are all drawing power even though they're off. Those are, you unplug them for a week, times how many classrooms, how many buildings, that adds up to a lot of cost avoidance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And believe plug load actually is, it's hard to believe, but it's now the largest draw for electricity.
Yep.
It's just hard to imagine.
We spent so much effort on energy efficient devices like the big appliances
Yeah.
like refrigerators and some of that, but all the little bitty devices, that focus
Yeah.
isn't there, and it's adding up.
Anything else? Well, I just wanted to note that the board is doing its part for energy consumption. As you notice, it's quite warm in here, as it was 2 weeks ago. Because we're
Comfort
not
first
running
is my
AC.
thing. Yeah. That's actually one of the things that I look at is, at school, you want people to be comfortable, because if it's comfortable, and chances are it's running its best efficiency. And if something's supposed to be on, so be it.
There you go.
Right.
So many challenges. Well, thank you, Mr. Tobin, for
Nice to
joining
meet
us.
you. Thank you, Mike.
Nice to meet you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
3.5 is a 7:30 appointment with the Bach Fund has been postponed, so we will have that on a future agenda. At this point, it's a little early, so we're back just about on schedule. 7:45, we have the chiefs. Welcome.
Right on cue.
Ah, beautiful. Excellent. Early, yes. Again, we're disappointed, Chief, that Mustang Sally isn't here with you, but we understand.
Mustang Sally doesn't always do what I tell her.
Well, welcome, and welcome, Chief Wright. I will note that this will be your last meeting before the board, so certainly on behalf of the board, again, I wish to thank you for your serving our community in our time of need as the interim chief, and we wish you well in your future endeavors, but we'll open it up, gentlemen, to whoever wants to speak first to a report.
You're senior man, you want to go first? I don't know about that. So you mentioned Sally. So yeah, she's the most popular member of the department. Obviously, I think everybody's seen her on social media. I'd like to thank the district attorney for helping to fund her arrival. He gave us some assistance in paying some of the invoices, and the health department grant helped with part of it. So she's, as you know, being raised, as it were, by Officer Baguma, and lives with Officer Baguma and his amazing wife and his 5 wonderful kids. So that's what she's being raised and trained. She trains 3 hours a day, and she'll be she's already been a huge hit.
we blew through the first 2 orders of puppy cards, so more are on order. As to where the department stands now, it's been a while since I've been here, but we have 5 new graduates out on the street. I just passed one of them on the way in here tonight, Perry working the beat. So we have those 5 new hires, and we have 2 that are in the academy right now, both a man and a woman who grew up in Norwood, and they will graduate in October from the Randolph Police Academy. We've altered a little bit the way we do testing. When we first came out of civil service, so as to replicate the way civil service operated, we gave a test every other spring. I was at a coffee with a cop several months back, and one of the people sitting there said, "Gee, I'm about to graduate from college. How do we get on the Norwood Police?" And I said, "Well, we give an exam every 2 years." So I think we were missing people. So we've gone with another firm that gives a rolling exam. They test people every month or so. So you can take a test and then opt in for Norwood, and you enter our hiring pool. And they pay a fee for that. It doesn't cost us anything. But I think it's a better system, and we won't lose candidates. We'll be able to be a little bit more nimble and a little quicker to respond. Of course, Mr. Mizuko is the appointing authority, and he does all of the hiring, the prepping of these candidates. Anyway, this is the system that we've moved to, made that minor adjustment. Speaking of academies, different kind of academy, our 2 youth academies are now staffed for the summer. I think we have about 75 8th graders going through the 2 youth academy classes. One in July and the other one in August. They'll be held at the high school, and Lieutenant Benton oversees that and has a number of officers that work with him. Again, we'll have arrivals from the State Police helicopter, K-9 unit. We'll have mock crime scenes, chemists from the crime lab, criminalists from the crime lab. It's really a great experience for 8th graders to go through this. And that's when you start recruiting. You don't start looking for 25-year-olds and try to talk them into being on the police department. You start talking to kids as they're little kids. And if they're interested in policing, you give them a taste. So Youth Academy is a very early swipe at that, if you will. So that'll be going on. If you've seen the monthly report, our traffic enforcement is up slightly from last year. Our officers have already stopped 2,700 cars. We do focus. We attempt to be data-driven in that we take a look at places where crashes occur and the types of violations that cause crashes. So we focus a lot more on speed, distracted driving, failure to yield for pedestrians, and some of that. And I think you've already heard that we've used federal grant funds through a state agency, Mass DOT, that gives us some of that funding. I'll also tell you just a couple of more things, is that although we have not swung over to Holbrook in the way Norwood Fire has, so far that's working very well. I listen to the fire channel all the time, and Holbrook sounds very professional. People from the police department will be going over there next month to do some training of their dispatchers, talking a little bit about Norwood and how it's laid out and how we operate and some policy issues and that sort of thing. And August 15th, of course, they'll be sending us police calls that they receive over 911. Right now, they're sending calls over an intercom system. As far as crime goes, as I was coming up here, our officers had just made an arrest on somebody going door to door purporting to do home improvement, actually a home improvement scam. I would suggest, as I left, they were still waiting for somebody to show up with a passport so we could determine the person's true name, because he'd given several that didn't match up anything that our investigation showed. So we just encourage people that if somebody knocks on your door and says that your roof needs replacing or there's something wrong with your chimney, be very careful in responding to those kinds of people. That's become a very popular scam. And of course, the phone scams are still out there as well. And last thing I think I would mention is that August 1st, the first Tuesday of August, is a National Night Out, national program that we've participated in. Now this will be our 3rd year. We'll be out on Norwood Common. And although we participate in all sorts of programs around town, we usually participate in other people's programs. National Night Out is a law enforcement program. It's us. It's a chance for people to come out and chat with us, to talk to recruits that are in the academy. We'll have recruits there, as well as brand new people, as well as people that aren't so brand new, and be able sit in the radio car and talk to the officers, and I can predict that Sally will be there. And so we're looking forward to National Night Out. It's always the first Tuesday of the month, first Tuesday in August, and that'll be August 1st. If you have any questions, I can answer them, or you can wait till after Chief Wright, or whichever you'd like.
Any questions for Chief Brooks?
Chief, they moved on to roofs and chimneys rather than driveways?
Chimneys, driveways, roofing, almost anything you can imagine.
Yeah,
they
the driveway used to be a big one.
They do. They say, well, we actually have some asphalt from the last job. They'd go in and they'd typically paint it black for you. They'd roll down some oil. First rainstorm, it would be gone, and it actually wasn't a new driveway. And they were famous for that. And we would actually get intelligence, get alerts from them coming up the East Coast, and it would happen every spring. And the home improvement scams are kind of on the same schedule. And we've seen a lot with the chimneys. Back when I was a detective, I had a guy going around doing chimney scams. They'd say, "Oh, that's got to be pointed at the top, and it's going to let go, and it's going to fall, and it's not true." Get a reputable contractor, get several quotes, and get local people. Not the guy who knocks on your door who says you happen to be driving by and spotted that your chimney's a mess. So you just never want to respond to that.
So I'm looking at your report, and we'll call it halfway through the year, 2,824 hours of training. Very impressive. We're always thrilled to see both departments with the amount of training you give your staff. But I'm just curious, how much of this is in-house versus sending them out to classes somewhere?
It's tough for me to assign a percentage. In Massachusetts, all police officers need to undergo 40 hours of training in topics mandated by the state. And we do all of that in-house. There was a time we used to go to a regional academy, 2 officers per week. We didn't think that was very good for the department. I was concerned about some of the quality, so we do that all in-house. And that means that our instructors are from the department, which means we send them to instructor development before they can teach. Then they go to a train the trainer that's topic specific, and then they conduct that training in the police department. Then we also do send officers out. We have officers this week at school resource officer training. They're not prospective school resource officers, but they're potential school liaison officers, and this will prep them for that in advance, and it also helps in their dealing with juveniles. So that's something that's outside the building. So it's hard for me to assess just how much of it is internal, how much of it is external. Certainly at least half is internal, maybe a little bit more. All of our firearms is done by our own instructors.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Groh.
Thank you. I just wanted to also, on the topic of scams, I just wanted to thank you for all of the social media outreach that you and the department do online with residents. Just this week I saw one of the bait and switch scams. A lot of the scammers are getting very into trying to create situations that look emotionally charged to get you to quickly click, but then switch the subject matter. So they had posted a fake missing person notice claiming that someone in Norwood was missing, waiting for everyone to reshare that because they're concerned. And then once a broad enough amount of people had shared it, then they changed the original subject matter of the post to point to either a scam or some supposed good rental deal or things like that. So I think it's really important that the community knows that the department is active in social, and that when something is amiss, that it's going to come from us. You're not going to get it from sort of friend of a friend of a friend said something. Right. So I really appreciate all the work that you put in for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm glad you pointed that out. So we get information from our own officers and their own experiences, from us taking a look at daily reports. We also get information from the Fusion Center and from the Boston Regional Intelligence Center. And that information is coming into us all the time. So the information that should go out to the public that would serve them best, we do try to get them. Social media, as you said, is a great vehicle for that.
Mr. Sack.
I just want to thank the chief, because he probably doesn't remember doing the sidelines at Norwood High School with our coaches years ago for our 10-0 undefeated team that went to the Super Bowl. But a lot of those kids are now on the force, and I want to congratulate you and thank you and keep a good eye on them. And those are a real smart group of kids. I said to you years ago, get them on the force, and they're on there now, so I appreciate it. I thank you.
Norwood High School is a great farm team for us.
Yep. Oh, one more thing I do want to bring up to the chief. Chief, I did get a couple of calls today, Tony, about people speeding, cutting through Ridgewood and Azalea. If you could maybe just put a sign there, no speeding or something for those neighbors, because they're cutting through because of the Ponce Street.
Yes, that's a common problem.
Yeah.
And we've done some speed counts down there as well, both us and DPW to take a look at what's going on down there. You know, sometimes you live on a street and there's very little volume, and all of a sudden there's a lot of volume and the traffic picks up just a bit. It looks like everybody's flying. That's not necessarily the case.
Yep.
So lots of times what we do is we have those speed control signs where you see the numbers. Lots of times we'll put those up and we don't put out the display. And what that box is doing is measuring the speeds, which we can download remotely. And then we can take a look at peak times and directions and so forth. And then we will do enforcement anyway, regardless of what they're saying, but it helps us pinpoint that enforcement. And then when we leave, we put the display on, which kind of reinforces what we've done. So
Perfect.
we found that formula's helpful, and we'll pay attention to those streets that you mentioned.
Excellent, thank you, Chief. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Chief. With that, Chief Wright, the floor is yours.
Thank you. To go over some call totals for the last 30 days, we did 553 calls. Of those, of course, the majority were medical. We had about 385 medical calls, and we transported 294 patients. We did have 9 fire calls over the past month, and we had a few significant incidents. We had, I don't know if you recall, the worker who fell at the hospital. I'm glad to report that although he had serious injuries, he is in recovery and will eventually get over his injuries. We also had a fire in a large commercial warehouse on Canton Street. That was quite labor intensive, very large structure, completely filled with smoke. And we actually had to force entry into the rear of the building. That's where the fire was. And then we had to call in a mutual aid large truck-mounted fan from Sutton to ventilate the structure, because warehouses are notoriously difficult to remove the smoke. So we could see what was going on. The only way we located the fire was the sprinkler had kept it contained. Luckily, those systems worked properly. But in order to extinguish the fire, we had to find it. And thermal imaging cameras helped us locate it. We knocked the majority of the fire down. Then we were able to get the smoke out and do the overhaul to make sure that there was no flare-up subsequent to that. So that business is going to be down for a little while. They're going to have to do some repairs to get it back up working, but we're working with them to make that happen as quickly as possible. We also had a house fire, a lightning strike on Marlborough Street. I think it was last week or the week before. It was quite the lightning strikes. It actually hit a shed in the back, and that was fully involved with fire when the crews arrived. And there was smoke coming out of the attic area of the house. So the crew, one engine knocked the fire down in the shed, the other crew went inside and had to pull the ceilings to get up into the attic to put the fire out. It actually had good half of the attic had heavy fire in it. So the fire was primarily contained to the roof area. However, there was quite a bit of water damage throughout the house and smoke, but we tried to protect the person's belongings, to salvage whatever we could for them. We traced back where the lightning strike came, and it was really very interesting. Lightning is such a powerful force of Mother Nature. We believe the primary strike was a tree in the yard, came down, came across the lawn, went up the drainage spout, the gutters, got into the attic area, and ignited something. And it actually had traveled, they had blown in insulation, and the fire, how we normally make sure that we put the whole thing out is we have to find the area unburned, and we actually were going through the attic and all the way across the whole attic on the very underneath. The lightning must have came across in between the ceiling and the insulation, because it was burned all the way across. So it was very interesting to see the path that it took. No injuries at either incident, so we're very thankful for that. We are doing our regular fire prevention activities. The end of the school year, we had a few programs where we had given rides home to children in a fire truck, and those always go over very well. Our safe coordinator, Paul Ronco, did a great job. We know they were very well enjoyed by the winners and all the other students that got to see them take the ride. So, other than that, if there's any questions, I'd be glad to.
Questions from Mr. Plasko?
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Chairman and Chief, I'm not sure if you have information on this, recall it, but I'm going to try to get some from you. A short time back, I am afraid the date escapes me, up in the Hatton Street where I live, and up into and including West Woods, that whole area lost power. And, which is fine, and light department takes care of it very quickly. But while the power was out, the fire department was up and down that street like a yo-yo. They, particularly up and down North Ave and into the apartment complex. Now, we've lost power before, and never can I recall seeing the department have to go through that. Was that
If I remember.
something to do with switching over to the regional dispatch at this time, or?
No, it was simply the fact that we received numerous calls of fire alarms, and a lot of times residents don't understand that when the power goes out, their smoke detector's gonna start beeping. You know, occasionally it's not the warning alarm, but it's a beep. So we just had a number of fire alarm calls where people called and said, my alarm's sounding, and we don't know what it is until we get there. So yes, I totally agree with you. We were up and down the street.
I know they're doing what they have to do if those alarms are going off and people are concerned, they gotta check things out, and they did it. Like I say, the poor guys were like yo-yos, those trucks back and forth. Everyone else was out in the street saying, what's going on? But I just wanna make sure it wasn't something turning over to the regional dispatch. If there was, we figured out how to correct it, you know?
Sure, no.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Mrs. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to start first by thanking you so much for your service to our community. As the chair earlier mentioned, you're helping us out in a time of need, and I've been hearing nothing but good things from the department, and so just really, really pleased with your assistance, and just greatly appreciative. And then one specific question I had this season, I wanted to know if there was very much of a distraction from all of the smoke coming down from the Canada wildfires. I know I had a lot of neighbors that were like, oh, there's smoke in the neighborhood. I'm like, yeah, but it's not our fires. It's from far, far away. And so I didn't know how much sort of extra calm noise that drove during that time.
We did have a few calls. It wasn't luckily the news media was covering it very heavily. So I think a lot of people were at least informed that they may smell those. But we did get a number of calls, and we have to investigate it anyhow. Yes, in fact, it's amazing that the smoke from that far away can carry all the way down here.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the board. The town has been phenomenal to work with. All the departments. We have a great community here, and you already know that, but as a little bit of an outsider, I want to reiterate the fact that you have a great department here, the fire department, and all the other departments have worked so well with myself, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Well appreciated. All right. Any other comments?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your time and effort for the town of Norwood, the chief also, and this is the crown jewel of the Commonwealth, as Helen would say, right here in Norwood. So thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Best of
Good
luck.
night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Good luck
you.
to you. Yes. Moving on to the agenda, we are now, I believe, at 4.7 Fall Town Meeting. Mr. Mizuko, I think you have a recommendation for us?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board doesn't necessarily need to take action tonight, but we have set out dates for the fall town meeting. I think as the board knows, the last couple of years, we've been trying to streamline the process a bit, get prepared ahead of time, get information out ahead of time, and it seems like each year we make a little bit more progress, and I think this is probably the first time in quite a while that in July, or it's still technically June, we actually reasonably know when we're gonna have town meeting in November. And we almost have our March dates set, of course, the annual being set by the charter. So if the board is so inclined, we could go ahead with these dates, and we would let folks know that this is when we're planning for our fall town meeting.
And these dates, as I'm looking at your email, would be to have articles due to the Board of Selectmen by the 26th of September, with October 10th as our opportunity to review the draft warrant in yellow sheet, then signing of the warrant by the Board of Selectmen on the 24th of October, and we'd be looking at a November 13th date for the town meeting.
Yes, sir. And at one point, we've at least internally made folks aware. We set dates for town meeting for the warrant closure, but if there's something we know needs to be on the warrant, we don't need to wait until those days to get it in. And just a quick example, I know the town meeting rules committee is going to have the town meeting size study committee is going to have a recommendation. If that material is ready, mid-July, early August, we can start the internal review process, have town council look at it, have it come to the board. It's not, okay, they're due the 26th, so let everyone get everything on that date. Those are just, the deadlines, if you will. That's the end of the process, not the beginning.
Mr. Plasko.
Thank you. Do we have articles already identified? Do we know we need a town meeting?
We know we'll need one for the capital budget.
Do we, the capital, that's correct.
Yeah, at a minimum, that's why we know we can set the date. We'll be bringing capital projects
And
forward.
is there any reason to believe we couldn't be ready earlier if necessary?
No, not necessarily. Again, those really should be the end of the process. By the time that those articles are due, we should have seen everything, vetted everything. We don't anticipate there being land use. We're anticipating a March town meeting with there being land use. That's not to say there won't be changes or corrections or citizens petitions. But the goal is to really be working on this well ahead and not rush everything in 3 weeks before town meeting.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
In my view, this, lays things out nicely. As the manager said, we try to wait things out, organize, and have plenty of time to do everything. But there may be a reason we might want to push this actually slightly further forward instead of back to November, if it's possible to get these things in. That's why I asked that question. So I wonder if we might keep this in abeyance at least till our next meeting before setting hard dates. As the manager said, we don't necessarily have to do it tonight.
Yeah, this is sort of the internal schedule we'll work on. Capital, we know generally the timeline, that November timeline works, and we've confirmed the dates. But as I said, if we're ready ahead of time, we could be ready ahead of time. Something always tends to come in, but.
Yeah, I mean, we do it in July or August, we still can vote these exact same dates, no problem.
Correct.
Personally, I don't have any issue with that. We are, not even in July, so I think we do have time to do that if the board is so inclined.
Yeah, second that.
I don't think we need a formal vote. I think that's just a consensus of the board that, to Mr. Plasko's point, to revisit the specific timing at a later date. And we have a little more information about what we're looking at for articles and so forth.
Thank you, Bill, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, with that, item 4.8 cemetery deeds for signature of the board.
Will we sign the deeds?
A motion to sign by Mr. Plasko, seconded by Mrs. Grow. All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, I'm still a little new to this.
You're
It's a
doing
little
good.
slow there, I know. We have a variety of other, let's see.
Memorandum 5.1 through
Memorandum,
5.4,
yes.
make a motion to file all.
A motion's been made to file memorandum 5.1 through 5.4. Seconded by Mr. Sad. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. 4-0. That brings us to item 6, manager update. Mr. Mizuko, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items. One, with the holiday approaching next week, town buildings will be closed on both the 3rd and the 4th of July. The pools will be open on the 3rd as normal. Of course, we encourage everyone to join us for the parade on the 4th. The swearing in of our new fire chief will be on July 10th. Certainly the board is invited. That'll take place in Memorial Hall. It is open to the public for anyone who wants to come in and see the ceremony.
Do you have the time on that?
10 a.m. is when the ceremony is going to start. And we actually want everyone to be in the room so we can close the doors and do it properly. Usually what ends up happening is everyone kind of bunches up at the end and we're trying to push everyone in. The board will be invited, and we're inviting retired selectmen, and we'll be inviting some other town officials, but it is also open to the public. I do want to give a thanks to Chief Wright. I probably should have embarrassed him when he was here, but he sort of came in and just fit right into our workflow like he had always been here. So we're going to be sad to miss him, but I think it had been his second week and we were all just like, he just fit right in. So he's done a great job for us. He is a great leader. He, I think, now really wants to retire. He retired obviously right before he came to us. Retired in Sharon on a on a Friday. Started with us on a Monday, but I think as he's explained, his honey-do list has gotten quite long, and he's been told he needs to retire. But we are going to miss him. He's done a fantastic job. That being said, Chief Bailey starts on July 10th, and we're looking forward to that. There is an event that the town is co-sponsoring at the library Thursday evening. It's called A Conversation About Wage Equity. It's at the library. Focuses on a couple of bills that the Mass Municipal Association is supporting related to wage equity and pay transparency, which I think, as the board knows, the public sector has certainly led the charge on for many, many decades. So I encourage you to either call the library, 769-0200. If you want to sign up, you can also sign up online. They have a registration link, and I believe Ms. Groh will be there and be giving an introduction there, so we are looking forward to that.
Do you have it, it's Thursday at 6 p.m., I believe?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, at the Simone Room in the library. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Manager. We now move on to a Selectmen addenda. We'll start, Mr. Zach.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. I just want to wish Judith Howard a speedy recovery. She's out of ICU. And Coach Tank Nondelli, he had surgery. He's coming home tomorrow, I believe. So my thoughts and prayers with those two. I want to thank the Norwood Hospital. I went to their raising of the beam. It was quite impressive. Bob and the local 7 Steel Workers Union did a great job, and they're ahead of schedule, and it's proud to be in Norwood, and we had a great time with it. So I want to thank all those people that put this hospital back on its feet.
It's good to see.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sad. Mr. Plasko,
Nothing
please.
further, same thing, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Mrs. Groh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I had the pleasure of attending Juneteenth, which was an excellent event, good turnout, even with the rain. Had a lot of great performers and community activities, so really pleased with that. And then I also wanted to take a moment to raise some awareness for the Impact Norwood program. They are currently recruiting new members for their Youth Ambassador program. If you're not familiar with Impact Norwood, they work on raising awareness about substance abuse and mental health, particularly with younger residents. It's actually a really popular program with the students. The last 2 student government days I've done, each time when they come to the point where they can allocate their money, they always choose that program to try to make sure that it gets some funding. So it's real important to our young community. So they're looking for new members. They basically meet on Zoom every Wednesday at 6 p.m. And if you're interested in joining, you can reach out to Bob Blood. His email is at rblood@norwoodma.gov. And if you want to learn more about the program, you can find them at impactnorwood.org or also at Impact Norwood on Instagram and on Facebook.
Thank you, Mrs. Groh. Just 2 brief updates. So a couple of committees that have ongoing work. The Stormwater Utility Committee did have its first public information session on June 7th at the Senior Center. We're scheduling another one for July the 20th, also at the Senior Center. And on August the 10th, there'll be a field visit presentation to Murphy Field. That happens to be the site of a lot of major work associated with the stormwater system. So that's on August the 10th, time to be determined. We also are planning, that committee also is planning an update to the Board of Selectmen. We're shooting for the August 22nd meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Capital Outlay Committee last met on June 20th, and they're making a lot of progress. They meet again on August the 3rd, to our earlier point about the special town meeting. August 3rd, they'll hear the presentations from department heads on their list of capital projects for FY24. That puts us in really good shape to certainly have the capital outlay work hopefully wrapped up very well and consistent with the timeline Mr. Mizuko showed us for the town meeting in November, or the fall town meeting rather. So that's just 2 updates on committee work. I should make a mention that we, at the next meeting, we will be revisiting our ZBA appointments made at our last meeting. It's come to our attention that, in fact, the zoning bylaw does cap the number of associates at 5 members. As you recall, we did not believe there was such cap, and we had made appointments above that number. Folks who have applied for the position have been notified that we have to revisit that issue at our July meeting, so that's just FYI. Again, Mr. Lane sent out a nice note to all applicants, and we certainly apologize for any inconvenience we put them through, but we will go forward and fill those positions at our July meeting. That's it for addenda. We have one more item on the agenda, that is an executive session. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
we move we go into executive session for purpose 3 regarding the firefighters local 1631.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Sad, second. So we'll take a roll call vote for going into executive session. Mr. Sad?
Yes.
Mr. Plasko?
Yes.
Mrs. Grow?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. We will go into executive session and return to public session for the purpose of adjournment only.